Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Phi Alpha Delta Candidate Forum for International Executive Board at-Large position candidates. My name is Emily Baranowski. I am Phi Alpha Delta's Deputy Director, and I will be moderating tonight's forum. We may have Kwesi Smith join us again as a moderator. He will be joining us a little bit later if he is able to make it out of court in time. That is the joy of being a full-time working lawyer and volunteering for Phi Alpha Delta. So we are very happy to have our candidates here with us this evening. And we are very excited to have this forum set up as the second of 3 forums for our International Executive Board and International Tribunal candidates. These forums are being set up and administered by the Executive Office, though we did take inspiration from the Knoxville Alumni Chapter's forums back in 2020, so we thank them for that. Before we get going, I'm going to explain how tonight's forum will go. If you joined us for the last forum, which was about 2 weeks ago, we are going to be doing things a little bit differently this week. Each candidate will have time to present an opening statement to you all. They will have 2 minutes each to present these statements. Then in a round robin style, we will move on to the questions. Candidates have 2 minutes to answer each question. Candidates have not been given any questions or sample questions in advance. Any questions that come in from the audience, please do utilize the question and answer feature in Zoom, which I will then pose to the candidates and they will answer them. Tonight's forum features our candidates for International Executive Board at-Large positions. These candidates are Jonalyn Blount, Jason Haber, and Lindsay Ramis. Jason was not able to make it tonight, but as a reminder, you can view his candidacy statement and everyone's candidacy statements on P.A.D.org, and I will be posting a link in the chat to that shortly. Since all candidates are running for positions with the same description and duties, tonight's candidates will answer the same or similar questions unless there are any questions posed to them specifically by the audience, and that's why we'll be using the round robin style of questioning tonight. We will be posing questions in the order they come in, and we'll get through as many questions as we can in the time we have tonight. Some questions were submitted in advance, so if we have time after the live questions are answered, we will move on to those questions. Please do know that the session is being recorded, and it will be available on the Phi Alpha Delta YouTube channel sometime within the next week or so. If you have any questions about the forum that is not for the candidates, you can directly email myself or Andrew. We can be reached at emily@pad.org or andrew@pad.org. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I will go ahead and just go in alphabetical order. So Jonalyn, if you'd like to be the first to go to start your opening statement, the floor is yours. You can start when you're ready.
First or last name, I was going first. Good evening. My name is Jonalyn Blount. I am running for International Executive Board Member at Large. I currently hold that position on the 2020-2022 board. I'm running again for the same position because I feel like in that role, I still have more things to accomplish, more things to learn, and more things to do. I will say, please forgive my candidacy statement. I wrote it while on COVID, trying to get it in time. So there's a lot more things I would like to say or talk about that I didn't cover in there, including things I'd like to see us work on in the future and things that I would like to be a part of, including continuing working on the long range planning committee and really looking at the future of the organization, not depending on whoever is IJ at the time, but things that can be long lasting. And I will concede any other time I have.
Thank you so much, Jonalyn. Lindsay, we will turn to you for your statement. Go ahead.
Thank you, Emily. Good evening, brothers and sisters. My name is Lindsay Ramis. I am also running for board member at large position. This will actually be my first time on the International Executive Board for Phi Alpha Delta. In the 18 years since I originally joined as a pre-law member. So I'm very excited about this potential opportunity. I still can't believe it's been 18 years. I still remember my first pre-law convention, serving as an officer. And since then, I've remained very active in the organization, serving as Vice Justice of the BOT chapter at OCU Law. And I currently serve as the District Justice for District 31, which includes North and part of West Texas, I guess, as well. The reason I'm running for the board is, one, I hope to get the opportunity to serve with some amazing brothers and sisters such as Jonalyn, I also want to continue my involvement and my leadership in PAD. I feel like I'm ready to take it to the next level. I want to be a part of helping shape and direct PAD's future as it continues to deal with many, many evolving issues facing both the law students and the profession that I see. I speak more in my candidacy statement about a lot of the specifics that I've done for PAD, since you all don't really have anything to base to base prior board action on. But I do believe that what I have done speaks volumes about how my values line up with PAD's mission statement, which is service to the student, to the school, to the profession, and the community. Since, gosh, I graduated law school, 12 years ago now. And since then, I've been very active, and the majority of the lawyers that I've hired for my firm and in various positions have been PAD alumni. I hire at least a couple PAD clerks every year, regularly volunteer to speak at PAD events. So if you want me, I'll volunteer. And as a number of students can vouch for, I am always a phone call away to give advice, whether it be about law school or career or starting your own law firm or anything like that. So in addition to not only my passion for actually helping the students and alumni of the fraternity, I think my other board experience will also be very valuable and helpful to this current or to this incoming board and to the fraternity as a whole. My service on, is that my time?
Yes.
Sorry, I can talk forever.
No, that's okay. That's good. That's what we want to hear. But yeah, we do allow a little leniency on time, especially because we do only have 2 candidates with us this evening, but we'll move on to the questions and hopefully get to a lot more of the specifics that you're talking about. So first of all, for our audience, please go ahead and feel free to start using the question and answer feature in Zoom. Again, this is a round robin style. So if you have a question specifically for one candidate, please go ahead and note that when you submit the question. Otherwise, the question will be posed to both candidates. And as I said too, we did have some questions submitted in advance. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right on into them today. So this question is for both candidates. So I'm going to switch back and forth between the two of you about who gets to answer first. But for this one, Jonalyn, you're going to go first. Lindsay, you'll be up first next time. So first question again for both of you. Jonalyn, how do you intend to work with the chair/international justice to set a strategic plan if you are elected?
Well, it depends who's elected for international justice, but if it's the one that's currently running, it's something that we've already been talking about. Really looking into understanding what is the future for PAD, what are the members of PAD looking for, what does an organization like this need to be accomplishing to have longevity in the future, to still show how we're relevant, to be able to show that we can change and adapt with the changing times and the new needs of people and the new age of people that are coming into these types of organizations. And then also knowing that you have to speak up, you have to voice your opinion. Even if it ends up not being the way you think it should be, at least you let them know that this is what you see, this is what you want, this is what you're hearing from your members, this is the direction that you think it should go in, and then using the ideas from other people to really create a plan to push Phi Alpha Delta forward.
Great, thank you. So Lindsay, same question. How do you intend to work with the chair/international justice to set a strategic plan if you are elected? You are muted.
I second absolutely everything that Jonalyn said. I've had, not having served on the board the last couple of years, obviously I've got some things to get up to speed on, but I know that there has been a lot of talk so far, and I've briefly, I've kind of discussed this with a few of the board members about, hey, what are we looking at long term? What are ways to address that? And I feel like my role on the board, or as an at-large member, would be to take the tasks that I am given by the board, by the IJ, do them to the absolute best of my ability. But as Jonalyn said, also speak up, provide your own ideas, your own thoughts, and really, I mean, do what you can to contribute to it. I mean, if I have some ideas, I know for at least for Texas, with the very unique situation that we have facing our law schools and students, and I'll be curious to see if some of those same thoughts are at issue in the long range planning that the current board and that the future board is going to be working on.
Great, thank you. All right, Lindsay, you are going to be answering first for this next question, so you're up again. And you did address this a little bit in your opening statement, but would you mind just, succinctly saying for us, what made you want to run for an at-large position for the upcoming biennium? You in particular, this is your first time running for the P.A.D board. Why now? Why this position?
Well, I've enjoyed the role of district justice. I do feel with stepping off of another board recently, I realized how much I enjoyed that position. I enjoyed learning the inner workings from the business side, from the strategy side, and I realized I'm actually pretty good at it, not to toot my own horn, but I enjoyed it, and I see where some of the skill sets that I have and the way I look at things, I think would be useful to the board here. And that's kind of what really got me to thinking about it. And as I started talking to some of the board members, it excited me even more. Pretty sure Nicole Gritta could get anyone excited about P.A.D.
She does have a very enthusiastic quality that we very much appreciate. So it's wonderful. So Jonalyn, same question to you. You've been serving in this position for the past biennium, but what made you want to run for this at-large position again for the upcoming biennium?
So one of the things that has really been prevalent with Phi Alpha Delta, I don't want to call it an issue, but things we're working on is really helping people to figure out what their leadership path would look like. Where are they trying to go and how do they want to get there? We are creating programs to help build leaders, build new leaders. And when I was really looking at running for the board, I was really going back and forth about doing it again. Just because of the time commitment and knowing that I never know what my years are going to look like. But then I kept thinking about it and I was like, this is not something that I'm ready to step away from. And I realized that based on watching everybody's roles and what they were taking on in different positions, that for me and for what I need and for my path, that this position again would be the best choice for me, because I'm able to give a lot, but I don't have to give as much as some other people, say the IJ role or IBJ role. Their time commitment is a lot more significant.
So we did receive one question in advance that was for you specifically, Jonalyn, so I'll just move into that one. And then we have one to follow up for you as well, Lindsay. So Jonalyn, since you have been on the board this past biennium, can you talk a little bit about a specific example of something that you're proud of accomplishing since joining the IEB, and maybe even something you want to take a step further if elected again?
That I'm proud of accomplishing.
Yeah.
I would say that some of the things that I'm proud of accomplishing is being part of the long range planning committee, really taking a second look at nominations and voting and how our organization is ran just in general. But I also would say the other thing that is a not known accomplishment, but really being able to work with the team on language and what things mean and how do we apply that to different people. For example, definition of good standing, we're currently working on what that looks like. And I think those things are so important to make sure that not only are we moving the organization forward, but we're also being very inclusive and intentional in how we're defining and using our rules and our bylaws and our constitutions to make sure that they're really covering everybody, they're understandable, and we're not leaving anybody behind because they think it doesn't work for them the way it's written.
Great, thank you. Lindsay, the next question is specifically for you. So you are, as you said, coming from a district justice position. So what challenges do you think you'll need to overcome as you transition from representing members just in your district to representing the best interests of the fraternity as a whole? How do you see that transition process working for you?
Good question. Having to look at things on a much more global scale, as opposed to what are the issues that the 4 law schools in my chapter are facing, which they're not small issues, but they're very unique. They may not be representative of all of the issues that the vast majority of the law schools are facing. And I think also looking at, I'm coming from a more inactive district that has had a hard time getting members and has had a hard time recruiting. And so I think it's going to be, well, but then again, I guess I went to law school in a very, very active chapter, and I learned a lot from my justice at that point, Peter Skimmica, and then Whitney. So I think the hardest part for me is going to be getting a grasp on what the average chapter looks like, or average district looks like, and how different every district is, and figuring out a way to address, how do you find the best solution that encompasses the most districts? I think that's going to be the toughest part.
Definitely. Yeah. We always say every chapter is different. Every district is different, and trying to get the global view of that is definitely something to think about. This kind of leads pretty well into my next question, which is for both of you. And so Lindsay, you'll go first for this one. And it kind of has to do with recruitment and engagement, because one of the roles of the IEB is volunteer recruitment, having more people come into these roles and everything. So how would you increase volunteer engagement in P.A.D, especially considering the many demands on people's time these days? What's your philosophy on that?
Are you talking about the international level, or are you talking like district-wide level?
All of it. I think that role, that duty is really all encompassing. It can be from every position to a board position, to a DJ, to just a chapter advisor. Volunteer is a very large term in P.A.D. It can be everything from a chapter officer all the way up to the IJ. So as we try to grow those programs and, bring more people to the table, what do you see as how you want to go about that to increase that volunteer engagement and recruitment?
I mean, to me, we've got to find a way to reach the most number of people possible who are, and then get them excited enough to actually volunteer. But it's how do you spot the people? I think if you can get in touch with people, it's pretty easy to figure out, oh man, this person would be great in a leadership role. This person, is very excited, very passionate, but it's how do you get in front of that person to begin with? That I think in some ways, I feel like technology and Zoom and being able to do these types of forums helps. And I think your potential reach is much larger, but at the same time, you're not having the one-on-one interactions where you can really, it seems much easier to convince people of things when you're in their face and just, you're talking to them, and it's a lot harder for them to say no. I mean, I feel like the goal is still the same, is to identify volunteers and to convince them. It's just how do you utilize the tools now that are available to do that? I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question very well.
No, that's okay. I think it's a good conversation to have in terms of, just in general, how are you keeping people involved and engaged? And, you kind of mentioned the idea of using the tools that you have available and getting back to maybe in person. And I'm curious then, pivoting to Jonalyn to answer kind of the same question, with that role, that duty for the board to bring people in. You kind of talked about that a little bit in one of your earlier questions, but what's your philosophy on, increasing that volunteer engagement and getting more people to the table, basically?
I would say that that's probably one of the hardest things to do as a member of the board. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of failed at it this year. I was put over a committee and I really could not get the engagement that I was looking for. And I really could not understand, how somebody could apply and, do all that, do the work that we asked them to do just to be put on a volunteer list to then not want to do it. So it really just blew my mind. And so I was like, what can I do in the future to make this better? And one thing I did notice was the people that were the most enthusiastic about having a role were people who were like 3Ls or had just graduated. They seemed to be a lot more fired up to participate, to want to be assigned something, to do something, to be part of it, to see something move forward. And so I really would like to, use that knowledge a little bit more to keep people who are transitioning from law school into active attorney or whatever they might be doing next, to getting them engaged with the different projects and volunteer situations that we need. And that works on all levels because it really depends on what people's time commitments are. You need people on the district level, you need people to stay engaged with their schools, keep in line with what's going on in their city, their town, helping them make those type of connections, and then also helping at the international level, because we really need to hear those voices of, hey, you're just now getting started. What is it that you're seeing that you need? What are you seeing? What did you see then that you'd like to see now? And then keeping them going and going and going and keeping them engaged through their whole career. And I feel like that's how we get these longevity people who haven't missed the convention in 25, 30 conventions and things like that. We really got to get them early and keep them engaged. And I think the other thing is really finding them something to do that works for them. And so, like I was talking about, at the district level, really working with our DJ council to keep local alumni engaged, keep local alumni abreast of what's going on, because you never know what somebody might be able to do. Like Lindsay talked about earlier, that she goes and talks to different students. She's available for panels and things like that. Just because somebody's not sitting on the board or sitting on a council doesn't mean they're not available to talk about what they do, what they see in the future, things they've come across. And we really need to work together as an organization through the different districts to really identify these people who have something to give, that one may not want to give all of their time, and then those who do want to give all their time and find a place for everybody.
Thank you. Well, shifting to our next question then, Jonalyn, you'll answer this one first, then we'll move to Lindsay. Shifting just a bit here, but of the 7 core values of the fraternity, which one do you feel resonates with you the most? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, I always said, that's all. I was like, I would say for me, of the 7 core values that resonate most, I haven't changed. It's going to be diversity. And it really hasn't changed. The reason why, I have seen through pre-law, because I also was a pre-law member, all the way up to the board, that our leadership is very much lacking in diversity at all levels. And it's really getting hard to figure out what can we do to bring in more diversity into the organization at different levels, and what can we offer that their own affinity group does not already offer them? What something extra that we can give that they didn't get before? So for me, like in pre-law, it was either do P.A.D or do the business, because I was a marketing major. And I was like, I want to go to law school. I'm going to Phi Alpha Delta. So that's what I did, but nobody else looked like me. And then got to law school. It's the same thing. We don't know how to recruit for diversity. And that's why it's important to me, because every time when I was ADJ, even at the district conferences this year, I was really like, recruit people that don't look, act, or think like you. It's hard to relate to somebody sometimes that doesn't look, act, or think like you, but it makes for a better organization. It makes for better ideas. It makes for better engagement. It makes for better involvement. And I'm constantly talking to friends about like, what can we do? How can we do this? Please don't give up on us yet. Like, we can still make this great. So.
Thank you. Lindsay, same question. Of the 7 core values, which one resonates with you the most?
It would definitely be professionalism. It's something that is very important to me, but is also very important to me that the law students, well, even the pre-law members, but the law students, the new graduates are coming out and they are able to operate in this very demanding profession, very exacting profession, where when mistakes are made, it can cost people a lot of money. It can cost people, their lives, depending on the types of cases you're handling. And maybe I've just seen a lot of horror stories doing legal malpractice and legal ethics work, but I find that so many lawyers, the one thing that that seems to be lacking and that they aren't learning in law school is how to actually be a lawyer, how to be professional, how to be, and not even, professionalism, you can look at it from being a good lawyer, from being smart, but you can also look at it as what does it mean to be professional in our profession, to be civil, to be just a good human being even. But to me, that is something that is very important, which is why I think I feel so strongly about mentorship and about making sure that our law students and young alumni have access to resources to help them be better lawyers and to contribute to this, what should be a very well-respected profession.
Thank you. Follow-up question for both of you, because you both mentioned through both of your answers your membership in pre-law, and so you've gone through basically every single step of membership, and now look at you, you're both running for the board, which is fantastic. So what's your philosophy on kind of that that pipeline basically of engagement, of professionalism, of diversity, of all of that, in ways that we can be better? Do you see better ways that we could be easing that transition for our pre-law students to go to law school, and then for law students to be alumni, engaged members? Jonalyn, you were pointing out that you see that great engagement of 3Ls and recently graduated students. So for 2 people who have gone through that entire process, how do you think we can maybe be doing better as a fraternity in easing all of those transitions into things? Lindsay, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, when I transitioned from pre-law to law school, and then pre-law to law school, and then law school to alumni, I actually had people from the fraternity contact me. I don't remember if they were board members or members of the executive staff. I don't even remember who it was. But I had people actually call me and say, hey, we understand you're a member, you got accepted into this law school. That is great. Let us introduce you to such and such person. Now, I realize that that is very time intensive now, and I don't know if that's even capable of being done anymore. But to me, that is what really helped my transition from one to the next, and I think was a catalyst in keeping me so involved all these years. I do think when in pre-law, I remember that our pre-law chapter was actually associated with and had overlapping officers with our with the University of Texas at Dallas's pre-law society, which increased our membership, but then we also had a lot of overlap interest in LSATs and transitions to law school. And it was great because we had speakers come in who were able to help us with that transition. And then you had the pre-law society, but then you also had the P.A.D pre-law. I don't know, it was a very smooth transition that worked really well.
Okay, so you kind of see that as a good model that we can maybe adopt as well. that engagement, that
Yeah,
intense level of engagement.
If we had the manpower.
Yeah.
We need to get more of those volunteers we were talking about.
There you go. That's a perfect example. Yeah. Jonathan, what about you with your transition through all levels of membership? What do you see as something we can be doing better with those transitions and keeping that going?
So my transition story is a little bit different. I felt very isolated when I was a pre-law member. And then when I got to law school, it wasn't somebody found me, I found P.A.D. And I took a couple friends with me. I was like, no guys, I did this in pre-law, it's great, let's just join. And then after I graduated, it was me finding my way back to P.A.D. on my own again. And so I feel like in these transitions that being able to have somebody have resources or something to let you know what are your next options. So I know with pre-law, we talk a lot about how not everybody from pre-law goes to law school, or like me, don't go straight to law school. So you have this gap of time where you're not really a full member of Phi Alpha Delta, you're a pre-law graduate. So what does that look like for you? What are your options there? What rights and responsibilities am I able to have there? And then when you get to law school, unless you just know you want to join Phi Alpha Delta, at my law school, we have a very strong presence of another legal fraternity that's almost more, it's like the most active chapter they have. And so it's like, what if I didn't feel like my transition from pre-law to law was that smooth? I had another option. I had other things that I could do, but I had already planned this out for myself, but not everybody does that. So we really need to be working with our members at different levels to help with transition members and to also help with new members. Like, you have to be actively reaching out to people. You have to actively let people know that you want them to be a member and this is why. So we really need to be able to show them this is why. Oh, this is why you should join in law school, because you get this, this, this. But also when you graduate, this is what that future can look like in Phi Alpha Delta. And it goes the same in pre-law. If you don't go to law school, here's what your future in Phi Alpha Delta could look like. If you do go to law school, if there's a gap, here's what your future can look like. And I think we really need to let people know what that looks like, so they're not just like, oh, that's just something I did in undergrad, or that's just something I did in law school. It's like, no, I knowingly made this commitment because I want to do this, this, and this. I want this path and that path, and now I want to be able to do there. What resources gets me there? Oh, P.A.D. has this, this, and this. Thank you, I will do that. That will get me there. And so I really think not having to always forge your own path through, it would be very helpful with the transitions to different areas of life within P.A.D.
Thank you. Next question, and Jonathan, you'll be up first with this one. How would you describe your leadership style? And as part of that, can you share some of your leadership experience?
I would say my leadership style is very collaborative. I don't really like to hear myself talk. I like to hear other people talk and then chime in different areas and help push conversations different ways, to think about things a different way or think about it this way. Not because I necessarily believe we should go that way. I just think you need to think about it to make sure that you are making the right decision and you're moving in the right direction. And I would say that, and so my leadership areas, I'm currently the chair of the Young Alumni Board for my law school, University of Arkansas Little Rock Bowen School of Law. I'm the chair of the GDT Foundation, which is a foundation to help underserved youth with working in social media and dealing with that type of influences in your life and things like that. I also just took over as a chair of our risk management committee for my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm a new member, so I gotta always talk about it. And I've had other areas where I've either been a board member or just a member that has allowed me not only to push my own self to the limit of leadership and speaking up, but also learning to work with anybody and to work towards anything, whether I agree with it or not, but being able to be like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do it well. and let's talk about this, let's talk about this. And I mean, even in my job, it's the same way. I pretty much lead my team from the sidelines, and I just be asking questions like, well, what if we did that? What does this mean? What if that? And so it gets you talking, gets the dialogue going, and it gets people really thinking like, well, what if we did do it that way? Or what if we did that way? And so I think that's my leadership style.
Thank you. Lindsay, same question. How would you describe your leadership style? And can you share some of your leadership experience that feeds into that?
Yeah, I would say my leadership style is, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's so much collaborative, but it's definitely, I want to hear what other people have to say, because when I ran my own firm for years, managed a number of lawyers. I'm in a new position now where I manage 5 lawyers covering different practice areas, number of paralegals, number of outside counsel. And in some ways, I want to delegate, like I will delegate, but at the same time, I want constant feedback in leadership. And I want to make sure that when tasks are assigned or when responsibilities are assigned, that the people who are supposed to be doing that are able to do it effectively, and that they have enough information to do that effectively. Because if you're not sharing the necessary information for people to actually do their job, you're not going to be able to get anything done. And so I'm probably, when it comes to leadership, I'm sure there are some lawyers who are like, Lindsay, I got enough info. I got enough. You can stop. I know what I'm doing. But I do think having clear instructions and clear expectations and giving the relevant knowledge is what allows people to really succeed and to get you the product that you need, or the work product that you need at the end of the day. As far as leadership roles, I've had quite a few in the last decade. Like I said, I had my own law firm, grew it up to, I guess, 3 lawyers, a couple of support staff. About 9 months ago, accepted a new position. I'm essentially managing attorney for 5 lawyers, a number of other staff. We do a lot of different types of stuff. I came in as lawyer number 1, grew the entire team, put in practice management system, all the files, everything, got everything organized, and it's running smoothly so far. And then I would say more in volunteer leadership roles, been very active in the Bar Association. I've chaired the Dallas Bar Judiciary Committee, the Legal Ethics Committee, the Professionalism Committee. Again, there's that professionalism thing. I've chaired that, worked very closely. Even before I was a board member, we had to work with the Dallas Bar Association Board of Directors to implement what they wanted. And then the last 2 years was board member for the Dallas Bar Association. And then in that role, I was also the finance chair, which was responsible for basically putting together a budget and implementing that and reporting to the board.
Thank you. Well, we are getting to the very last of our questions that were submitted in advance or that were brought in this evening. So I will say final call for questions as we wrap up this evening. And I think that our final question is actually a very good one to end things on, because it essentially asks both of you, if you want to leave us with anything, if you want to share what your priorities are. I don't like the kind of questions. It's like, give me 3 examples of things you'd like to do. I don't want to put you on the spot like that, but you have this chance now for this final question to share what are your priorities going to be if you are elected to this next upcoming term. Lindsay, technically you get to go first this time. Sorry about that. So Lindsay, you go ahead, and then Jonalyn, you'll wrap us up.
Fair being the newbie here.
You're doing great.
I would say that my priority is I want to be a good board member. I want to be an asset to the to the board members. If that, if I'm asked, if I'm given an assignment, I want to do it well. If they ask me to, hey, Lindsay, please give us your thoughts on this, then I want to do that. I want to do whichever tasks I am given. I want to do them well in support of the board so that they can, so that they can do what they do best. To the extent that I am asked to, do anything involving the law schools, I would absolutely love to be able to reach out to the law schools to help figure out a way to increase involvement, to increase the continuity kind of that we've been talking about. How do you get them from law school? And then as an active alumni, I would say that, and then it would be helping, probably the third would be, helping figure out where P.A.D is headed, for, the long range planning. Where is that going? What are our goals and how can I help implement those? That would probably be my 3 priorities.
Great, thank you. And Jonalyn, what about you? You don't have to do the list style if you don't. If you're ready, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Emily. I would say for me, one of my priorities is I would like a second chance to reimagine and revision what our international presence looks like. That is, I feel like, where I kind of failed this year, is I was given that and I just couldn't move it anywhere. And so I really want to reimagine what that looks like, what our needs are, what happened, get a better understanding from basically you guys, Andrew, Emily, the rest of the team, like what happened? Where did contact get lost? What are our international members, potential members looking for? What are we looking for when we are dealing with international law schools, international law programs? Because I know their programs look very different. I would also, since I do work for a global company, I would like to actually start talking to our attorneys overseas and really asking them, what would an organization like File for Delta look like in their areas? What would something like that have to do to take hold, or want people to, or, have something that people would want to join? What does that look like for them? What is something they may be missing out on? Especially in Europe, they have a lot of ability to be transient between the European Union and a lot of movement there. Is that something that we could capitalize on? Is there somewhere we could build even some type of network there? So I really would like a second chance at that. I would also like to continue working on the long range planning committee, especially with reimagining what nominations look like, what voting looks like, who can vote looks like, what works best for an organization of our size, of what we're trying to accomplish, what works best there. I really would like to continue with that. And then I'd also would like to really continue with really pushing for our diversity, and that falls under all of our areas. So I've really been pushing about like our diversity in our history, talking to different people who are like, sometimes I feel like a footnote in our history, and I know that we're making strides for that, but making sure that certain people aren't felt forgotten. And then also in our volunteers and our recruiting, being able to just recruit, like I said, somebody that doesn't look, talk, or act like you do. And so I really want to be able to focus on those areas.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for your time this evening, for your service to P.A.D, and for running for the board. We're grateful for you and all of our candidates, everyone running for positions this year. We really appreciate your time tonight. Again, for all those who are attending tonight, just a reminder that this recording will be available on the File for Delta YouTube channel sometime, hopefully in the next week or so. If we can get it up there earlier for you, we certainly will. Our next candidate and next and final candidate forum is next Wednesday, the 8th, and that will be for our International Tribunal candidates. So please go ahead and check out the P.A.D event calendar if you'd like to register for that event. I believe we will be accepting questions in advance for that as well. Again, if anyone has any questions about tonight's forum, please feel free to email me or Andrew, but I'd like to thank our candidates and all of our attendees for their time this evening. Have a really great evening, everyone.